my vacation, which, I mean, if you're watching this in the series years from now, it doesn't matter to you, but I did take some time off where I wasn't uploading any videos of my story, and, you know, took time to reflect once again because, I don't know, I keep getting messages that you don't have to tell your story and it doesn't matter, but I don't know, there's this feeling every time I get those messages that that's not the truth, that it does matter, and I don't know, like, it means something for my story to matter to me. So, yeah, I took a little vacation and I'm back to finish telling my story. Whether it matters or not, I'm here to tell my story. But I do want to go backwards. I know that the point that I was at was I was traveling across the country for the girls to have their first visitation with their biological father. But I do want to go backwards a little bit and just discuss some things. I really did rush into marriage. I wouldn't think that I would, but I did. I rushed into marriage, but it felt so right. Nothing about it felt wrong. It felt so right. And, you know, like I said, other people had asked me to marry them before, and there's no way. I knew that I couldn't. I felt like if there was a disagreement on what to do, I wouldn't be able to submit. And I was raised Southern Baptist, and I was raised that a woman does submit to her husband, so I knew that my husband had to be someone that this strong-willed lady could submit to. And I didn't see that as possible. Zach, I did not see it as possible. But, yeah, I know that sounds crazy. I shouldn't have been making babies with him then. And that's the truth. But, yeah, so I did rush in with Dave, but it was a crazy whirlwind of a time, you know, and there was a war going on, and he had to leave to war, and I would just stay home, and it was kind of crazy because he would call me like at 4 a.m. and we would talk, not like every night, but often, and you know, a lot of times I would just miss out on sleep just from worry. And, you know, sometimes whenever I would just be cleaning the kitchen or making dinner or something, it's just like in my head, I could just, like, I was having a discussion with him, you know, but I really wasn't. When he got home, I saw that, you know, the person that I imagined him to be is not the person that he is, and that's okay too. I do love the person that he is. It's just, you know, there was an adjustment period. There was an adjustment time. You know, I'm very crazy, and I let him know that. I was like, I'm very, very crazy. I'm very, very jealous. I'm very possessive. And, Dave seemed to be okay with that. During his first tour, well, his second tour, my first tour with him, he was talking to some other girls. He had given me access to like all of his accounts, and I saw that he was talking to some girls and he would call them sexy, and it offended me, and I let him know that it offended me. And you know, he was just like, I am so sorry, and he let them know that he's not going to be talking to them for a while. He kind of like cut these girls out of his life, and I really respected that. I really did. And he always made me feel heard. He made me feel heard, and he made me feel loved. And that was really cool. But there was this one time where Dave would order stuff and send it to the house. because, his first tour, he was making a lot of money, and he'd never been a family before, and, I hadn't either, and, I didn't know. Being married teaches you a lot of the other's perspective. You begin to learn things about the male perspective that you didn't realize. And if you're open, have an open mind, and you communicate and discuss, then as a male you can learn a lot about the female perspective that you probably didn't realize. So I didn't understand the male perspective of things, and I didn't understand what it was like to, be a male and stuff. And my husband, he calls himself a nerd. I love it. I love his nerdiness. It's so, he's a charismatic nerd if he's a nerd, but I love it. And he would buy nerdy stuff like action figures and fancy dice and stuff like that. And he would buy t-shirts, and so we would be getting these packages coming to the house, and most of it I would put downstairs in his office. He had an office downstairs, what I considered his office downstairs. So most of it I would just put in there. I would open it up and look at it and then put it in there. I wouldn't open it all the way up. I'd open up the package to see what it was. And if it was a t-shirt, a lot of times I would go ahead and take the t-shirts out and wear them. So I feel like I can wear my husband's t-shirts. That's fine. And, if he bought them for himself, there were times, because he would buy so much stuff, I would feel jealous. Like, is he ever going to buy me something? But that doesn't matter. Anyway, one time I remember I was FaceTiming him, and the girls, it was dinner time, and I was getting them all ready for dinner, and I had his baby, and I was wearing one of his shirts, and he's like, "Are you wearing one of my shirts?" And I was like, "Yeah," and I'm bouncing the baby on my head, and the baby just pukes all over me, and he's like, "The baby just puked all over my new shirt," and I was like, yeah. I don't know. I just think that story is so funny. He was kind of upset because he's like, I didn't even get to wear the shirt before the baby puked on my shirt. But I'm like, welcome to fatherhood. So, yeah. Yeah. It's an adjustment period. It really is. And when he was home, I'd been so programmed that as a partner, as the girl partner, you have to provide relations for your husband often, and I don't know how to explain this. Back then, I didn't understand the way that the female body works. We're very much like a flower. We're meant to bloom. But I was more focused on how the male body works. And it's kind of like a get her done kind of thing. And I would try to provide that for him as often as I could. And it was just getting more and more painful for me. And that's kind of why I got more into drinking. I was just trying to numb away the pain. And I was very blind at the beginning to who he was. I continually saw Zach in him. And there were many times where I would throw myself on him, and at the beginning of our relationship, and he'd be like, I don't want it like this, and I think you have me confused, and stuff like that, because in my mind it was just so, relations is all about getting the guy off. For the girl, my only job is to be a receptacle and to look pretty while being that receptacle. And That's just not true at all. And, it's a learning process, being newlyweds. I mean, for us, he went from being a single male to being a father of 3. So that's a whole lot. It's a whole lot to ask. And he was, going to war, and I was just home alone, and I didn't ever cheat on him while he was at war. I would never do that. Like, to me, that is like the lowest of the low. I knew a lot of Army wives that did, but I would never, ever. But I wasn't even tempted. I'm honestly, I loved it. I'm just gonna tell you all the truth. I loved it. I loved it so much because for me, because I believed that sexual relations was all about the male, getting him off, and just me being a receptacle for that. Him being gone is freedom, It's like, yay, I don't have to do it. There's no way I would do it with anyone else because I'm free right now. I don't even have to worry about nothing. I get to have my home. I get to have my kids. I get to have my life. I loved it. I don't know. I remember that house, and we would just sit upstairs. I would turn on the TV, like turn on Disney Channel or some movie that the kids really loved, and I would just let the girls climb all over me on the couch, and I don't know. It was so wonderful. I got into a video game that an Army wife got me into playing. It reminded me of my childhood because as a child, I played this video game called Toontown. Oh my gosh. And I so got addicted to this video game. I was so addicted. It was so crazy, but I would just let my kids hang out and do whatever, watch the Disney Channel, and I would be playing my video game. I don't know. It was crazy times, and there was a learning process for everyone. We were all learning how to figure out how to do this life thing, and aren't we still all learning how to figure out to do this life thing? I think so. But yeah, those first days of marriage, though, I look back on it and I think they were a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun getting to know each other, figuring each other out, and I don't know. It was a lot of fun. But at the same time, it was scary, and it was nerve-wracking, and so, yeah, it wasn't perfect, not by any means, and in a lot of ways, that's what makes it worth it. In a lot of ways, the reason that life is worth it is all the imperfections that we get to live and experience. So, yeah, I just thrust myself into marriage, and I would not recommend that. I felt strongly that Dave and I were connected at some soul level, and he felt that too. He would tell me that often. He was like, "No, you're my soulmate. You're my one. You are." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." But I thrust myself into it quickly, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and it was a crazy bumpy road at the beginning. I tried my best to be my best. Whenever, I was trying to explain, whenever Dave got back from his first tour and he was telling me that I couldn't hang out with certain people no more, I was more than happy to cut them off. That's part of why I was willing to marry Dave. I trusted that if he wanted me to cut someone off, there would be a good reason. And also, I wanted to have the same respect in return, and I felt like Dave would give me the same respect in return, that if I was like, "Hey, I want you to cut her out," he would cut her out. And there was one girl that I was just like, "I do not like her," and he's like, "Yeah, you're probably right not to." And he's like, "I will cut her out." And so he did, and I was right. And so it's things like that that was very important to me. Our values aligned. I spent a lot of time discussing and making sure that we had values that align. I didn't think that it was necessarily important to share the same spirituality, but to respect each other's spirituality. He did believe in God. He believed in spirits and such like that. So that really fit with me. I was a Unitarian big time. But yeah, I don't know. I don't recommend it. I do not recommend jumping into it and going in like I did, but that's what we did. It was a whirlwind, and it was a bumpy ride at the beginning, and it's been a bumpy ride ever since, honestly. And I don't recommend it, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, and it's my life, so I'll live it how I want, and I want you to live your life how you want. But anyways, I'm so grateful that you wanted to be here today to watch this my story message. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching yet another episode. And as always, I pray that you are blessed with massive, massive amounts of love. That's all she got.